Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
It was trailed as launching a national crusade to boost home ownership. But David Cameron's closing speech to the Conservative Party conference in Manchester had a bigger mission, a political land grab aimed at establishing his party as the permanent resident of the centre ground. At the heart of the Prime Minister's pledge to build a Greater Britain were two key aims: an all-out assault on poverty and an end to passive tolerance of which was allowing extremism to grow. Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, has this.
After relentless focus on the long-term economic plan, David Cameron came to his conference to change the subject, and he hopes to secure a legacy. He said Britain was a country of deep social problems, and he very much intended to focus on them, staying put in number 10 for a full second term.
I'm starting the second half of my time in this job. And as you know, I'm not going to fight another election as your leader, so I don't have the luxury of unlimited time. And let me tell you, I am in just as much of a hurry as I was 5 years ago. We are not a one-trick party. For us, economic success, that's not the finished article. It's the foundation on which we can build a better society. That means entering those no-go zones where politicians often don't dare to venture.
Including discrimination, still, he said, rife in Britain.
One young black girl had to change her name to Elizabeth before she got any interviews at all. This, in 21st century Britain, is disgraceful. I want us, the Conservatives, to end discrimination and finish the fight for real equality in our country today.
Getting closer to the compassionate conservatism he campaigned on 10 years ago when he won his party's leadership. And much of it had seemed sidelined since then, including prison reform.
Now, there's another service run by the state and that all too often fails and entrenches poverty. It's called prison. We have got to get away from the sterile lock them up or let them out debate. We've got to get smart about this.
He attacked services for children in care. Care leavers, he said, are 4 times more likely to commit suicide, frequently end up in prostitution, and virtually guaranteed a life in poverty.
These children are in our care. We, the state, we are their parents. And what are we setting them up for? The dole, the streets, an early grave? I tell you, this shames our country, and we will put it right.
On Europe, he said he would end Britain's commitment to ever closer union, and he hugged the Mayor of London close, a man he hopes will be on his side in the EU referendum.
But let's hear it for the man who for 2 terms has been mayor of the greatest city on earth, our very own Boris Johnson.
David Cameron announced that he wanted government inspection of madrasas to stop a minority of the schools where extremist messages were being taught.
This passive tolerance, it's turned us into a less integrated country. It's put our children in danger. It is unforgivable. So let me say right here, no more passive tolerance in Britain.
David Cameron's team hopes Jeremy Corbyn's election as Labour leader will win the Tories even more support from Labour at the next election. David Cameron mocked a book written by an advisor to the new Labour leader.
It's called The Joy of Tax. I've got it. I took it home to show Samantha. It's got 64 positions and none of them work.
His team thinks Labour will have changed its leader by the time of the next election. But David Cameron said Jeremy Corbyn's record made him unfit for high office.
My friends, we cannot let that man inflict his security-threatening, terrorist-sympathising, Britain-hating ideology on this country we love.
Winning credibility as a social reformer will be pretty tricky as more deep spending cuts are announced next month. The din from the row ahead on Europe threatens to drown out other projects too. For now, though, the protagonists in that battle were pondering another challenge: After a week of abuse by demonstrators around the perimeter of the conference, how do you get home without bumping into them again? Gary Gibbon, Channel 4 News, at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester.
Well, a little earlier, I spoke to the Secretary of State for the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, Liz Truss. I began by challenging her government's record on building houses.
Well, the fact is that we built more council houses under the last Parliament than Labour built in its entire 13 years in office, so we are building more council houses. But I think the important point is that we're seeing house building starts at a 7-year high.
What are we talking about in terms of numbers?
Well, what we're talking about is 200,000 starter homes, but that's not all of the homes that are going to be built, because a lot of our reforms are about freeing up the planning system. One of the things I'm working on in DEFRA is making it easier for villages to expand incrementally so people can live and work locally.
Now, today we had the Prime Minister talking very much about multiculturalism, about the great value that many immigrants have brought to this country. Yesterday seemed to be a different party altogether, talking against immigration and saying they have no economic value. Where are we? We've got two Tory parties.
Well, I don't think the Prime Minister praised Europe. What he said is we wanted to get a good deal from our renegotiation, and that's absolutely right. And in terms of immigration and migration, you know, we are proud of our multi-ethnic society. We want to make sure there is no discrimination and everyone has a chance to get on in life. But we also want to have proper control of our borders. There was a very powerful section in today's speech about extremism and tackling extremism, but also on dealing with issues of discrimination, whether it's on the basis of race, on the basis of whether you're a woman or a man, or on whether you're gay.
This black girl who was discriminated against and had to change her name, and he wanted to stamp out that kind of racism. How is the government going to get rid of that sort of racism?
Well, I think he raised a very important point. In Britain, we don't have enough social mobility, that we have a poor record compared to other countries, that we want to enable everybody to be able to fulfil their potential.
But is he just saying it, or are we actually going to see a difference? A real sense of leadership on this issue, an absolute intolerance of any of it?
Well, he's been absolutely clear that that's what we want to achieve. I think it's a really important part of the social reforms.
We've been trying ever since the beginning of the Volkswagen crisis to get a minister either from Transport or Environment on, and I'm wondering whether you can tell us how long the government has known that Volkswagen had a problem with emissions.
Well, we found out when this issue emerged in the US, and the Transport Secretary, Patrick McLaughlin, has announced that he is conducting testing to establish what level of problem we have here in the UK.
Well, the Times is reporting that the Department of Transport was told a year ago. So you're denying that anybody in government was told that this was going on over a year ago or up to a year ago?
Precisely. What I'm saying is we heard about this when the Americans identified it.
It has been known for some considerable time that the on-road testing of vehicles, which after all affects the environment of which you are Secretary of State, was not a proper judgment.
John, you're absolutely right that that is the case. The fact is it's a European testing regime, so we need to get agreement across Europe to have real-world testing standards. That's the objective of the British government, and we have been putting that case in Europe.
Liz Truss, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you very much, John.
I've been getting